So today I want to talk about how I'm positioning my family's portfolio and those of my private clients when it comes to preparing for the inflationary storm that is imminent. When you look at what governments are doing around the world, they're all debasing currencies to fund the extravagant expenditures and the largesse of each of these colossal behemoths that's built up, controlling the matrix. And so in the US, you have these grimy old politicians. They're all decrepit, they're all complete degenerates. It doesn't really matter what side you're looking at, but when you look at their actions and what actually comes of them, that's just what's happening. It's a big money suck where all the little slave peasants are donating tax dollars to this entity to then be wasted and pocketed by many different people along the way. So fundamentally, when you look at the debasement of currency and how that plays into inflation, as it's called, a lot of people are investing in certain things, real estate being one of them. And they look at, their shitty little house that was worth $10,000 in 1972, and they see it worth $1 million now, depending on the area. And then they're like, oh, wow, I'm such a genius. My shitty house is now so much better than it was back then. But in reality, it's not the house getting better. It's the fact that the dollar has lost, 90% of its purchasing power since then. And so that's going to continue to happen. Whatever the purchasing power the dollar has now will only continue to be accelerated as we see these kind of clown show politicians raising the fake debt ceiling and then doing that thing over and over again until, again, now you start to enter a hyperinflationary phase at some point later in time. But as far as right now, money flows to where it's safest within the matrix, where it can find protection, whether that's businesses that are very strong. That's why you see, in terms of even the markets, there's this illusion that markets are doing well at all-time highs, but really it's propped up by the NASDAQ. So you have a small minority of tech stocks that are accruing exponential value because they have the most visibility in the market. So right now, the trick is, as the dollar is declining, how do you place your money in places where you can at least maintain pace with that decline or hopefully get a little bit more? And to get that little bit more, that means you have to anticipate where liquidity is flowing before it gets there, right? That's the only way you can make up that difference. Otherwise, you're just going to be keeping pace, or most likely you're actually behind with inflation. Because, even these fake CPI numbers, whatever that means, inflation really depends on a number of factors, because it depends on you, your household, what type of things you use. Because if you use certain things that maybe are going down in value, or maybe there's disinflationary, points, then you might not see inflation. But on certain areas you will, because everyone's seeing that. So as far as avoiding it, the things that we're looking at now are hard assets that are, where it just can't be manipulated at the source, where the supplies can't be manipulated. And with many equities, with many, even in the crypto world, right, there's all kinds of scams and projects there. But when you look at the top projects like Bitcoin and Ethereum, now we're seeing these as long-term stores of liquidity that a lot of big institutions are entering. And so those are places where, in terms of the mathematically controlled supply, it's a good narrative when you look at the supplies that are manipulated by governments as a, antithetical place to put your money, basically. So that's one place where I've had exposure there for years. It's not cheap anymore, but in terms of hedging, exposure across a portfolio, some of those top crypto assets might make sense. Then we look at gold and silver. Those are the other places, as well as a range of basket of commodities, really. Because when you look at the most comparable time in history, which was the 1970s, that was during a period of stagflation, commodities went on a huge boom as well. And so right now we are looking at around the corner, and when you see a spiraling currency in every single country, well, what do those countries try to do? They're all trying to protect their treasuries as fast as possible, so they're using their own shitty currency to now buy whatever natural resources that country has and strip it of that wealth. So now you're going to start to see, and you're already seeing that around the world, gold and silver, gold is hovering around and, it's the zone of price discovery. Silver is at 52-week highs. So right now, those commodities are starting to move into a bull swing. I still think there's a lot of room left on that. And that goes for a lot of other commodities. You're seeing copper at all-time highs, and you're seeing a lot of other, even soft commodities that are starting to pick up. So that could be one area, if you're a sophisticated investor, there's many different ways to get exposure to commodities, but that's definitely one thing to consider. And real estate's the tricky one, where a lot of people think that it's an inflationary hedge, but depending on where you are, there's a big counter narrative where now you're seeing holding costs for real estate skyrocketing, especially in certain areas where people are just straight up leaving because they're mismanaged. Now, properties are becoming huge liabilities and very hard to move. So unless you're in an area that's growing, like certain places in Florida, maybe Texas, just off the top of my head, a lot of these areas, real estate could actually really be a huge liability, I think, with the coming, liquidity crunch that we're gonna have ahead. So that's sort of my high level take on the situation. That's by no means financial advice. You have to see whatever your own overall situation is and then take risks accordingly. But doing nothing is also a risk. And right now I see apathy with a lot of people. They're just sort of really have their head in the sand when they don't realize that winter is coming. And so if you're already getting exposure to some of the assets that I've talked about in this video, and you want to continue getting exposure in a way that's safe and protected, then you need to be doing so in a private trust, like the 508c1a trust we use. So if you want to learn more about that, you can jump into the community in the description and learn more about how that works. It's a tax-exempt trust that I have brokerage accounts in that I, do all my equities trading in. I trade derivatives for my family trust. I have crypto accounts in trust where, you buy and sell crypto as a trustee of a trust. You pay 0 taxes. And for all the crypto people out there, I see so many of them jumping through all these hoops and using these fancy softwares and talking to these idiot accountants that are making you do all this kind of BS calculations with, oh, what about these airdrops and what about my staking rewards and blah, 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 blah. You guys are not thinking about the situation correctly. Crypto people are supposed to be smart, anarcho-capitalist libertarians, and I see them pay $100,000 for an offshore trust, and then they still probably have to pay taxes after all that, and there's still complexity with that. So that's why for any of you who have crypto and trade crypto, join the community, because we'll show you how to trade crypto with 0 taxes and in a very easy, simple manner. You're just using the same brokerages you probably are, like Coinbase, Kraken, Uphold, I don't know, whatever exchange you use. But now you're using a trust account within that exchange. So they actually provide you with better service. And sometimes there are minimum requirements, sometimes there aren't, but it just depends on the institution that you're working with. So it's really a no-brainer when it comes to protecting your family's assets, but also positioning them in a variety of things for the coming inflationary storm. Now, on a side note, I know many of you have been, wondering what I've been doing, and I've been kind of MIA, partly because when it comes to trusts, when it comes to what's already out there, I work with the Trust from Liberty Aid Academy, and what's been said has been said many times. I'm just repeating what's already been said, and so I don't want to just keep regurgitating things for the sake of making videos. But recently, I've seen so many people and had so many conversations privately where the state of the world just worries me. A lot of people are really on a very bad path because the world is not getting easier to live in, it is getting harder. And it is going to get harder at a rate which is probably incomprehensible at this point. When you look at technological factors, economic factors, political factors, there's just a whole range of things that are just a complete shit show. And so you need to just sharpen up mentally, physically, spiritually, in every way possible in order to survive this storm. So I've been seeing that some of this financial stuff I talk about on this channel is very high level, very complex. There's not many people that can engage with me really on that level. Although the few that are, a lot of them are in that group. So again, I would recommend that anyone watching this join that. But for those that want to engage with me on a more casual level, I will have some announcements shortly about what I've been up to in Miami and some of the cool things that have been happening, and just the fact that, all the lies that have built up this system, those lies are crumbling around us and many people are waking up to it. But it's still a slow process because people are waking up to parts of the narrative, but a part of the whole is still usually a lie. You need to really do all you can to get as much of the truth as possible and build that picture for yourself. So I look forward to seeing many of you inside the Bulletproof Retirement community, and stay tuned for what's coming soon. I'm about to drop some new videos and invite you to some cool projects that we've been working on behind the scenes. So talk to you guys in the next one.